At this time, the mayor will call to order the workshop, 4:30 p.m. Tuesday, November the 17th, 2020. City Council Chambers, 201 East Nash Street, Terrell, Texas, to order. As always, we all came in, we had our mask on. If you're social distancing and you want to remove your mask this time, you may do so. Before we start tonight's meeting, I want to just make a quick reminder to everyone to continue to take steps to minimize the spread of COVID-19. We're having a little bit of uptick within the city. We're also having a little bit of uptick within the county and state. Remember to practice social distancing. Remember to wear your mask. Wash your hands for at least 20 seconds, please. Be observant of the CDC guidelines. We can still stay ahead of this game and make sure that everyone has a good Thanksgiving and the holiday season. Although the numbers are up, if you want to do your part, the city does its part. We can avoid drastic actions being taken by either state officials or county officials. Thank you in advance for doing your part in keeping your family safe and ensuring that businesses within the Terrell city limits stay open, and we approach this holiday season with good intent. So at this time, if you would, Grady, would you please lead us in invocation?
Yes, ma'am. Maybe I'll stand and bow right here, please. Oh, Heavenly Father, we come once again giving you much gratitude for your grace and your mercy. We thank you for giving us the wisdom and the spiritual strength to push through this adversity. We ask that you remind us to continue to rely on you and to partner with you in making this world and this city a better place. God, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
on the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
At this time, we're going to take a moment and do some council and staff recognitions. The first group that I would like to recognize is the Griffith Avenue team. As everybody knows, it's very near completion, and we want to take a moment and say thank you to those who were participated in getting us to this point. We have with us Steve Rogers, Mike McKeska, Mike Shook, and Tony Stark. Steve, if you would please come and just briefly, or from, we can't hear you from there, but you're going to have to come to the mic because we're live streaming, and just briefly go over the project and thank you for your service and everyone involved.
Thank you, Mayor. It's always good to see the guys doing the work, getting recognized, and that's the guys especially out in the field, and that's Mike Shook, principally on this job, and Tony Stark for doing the inspections to make sure that the contractors in the field are doing the work. They're the guys that are out there when it's 100 degrees where I'm hiding in the air conditioning and in the rain and everything else. So I appreciate the work that they do for the city on an ongoing basis, and Mike McKeska has obviously put a lot of effort into this project to ensure its success. We were able to rebuild a little over 4,000 feet of Griffith Avenue. We installed new sanitary sewer along most of the route. We'd already done a repair years ago on a portion of it from 9th to Walnuts. We replaced new sanitary sewer up to Walnut Street. We put in new water line the entire length of the project from Rockwall to Walnut, which is a little over 4,000 feet long. We were able to install for the first time at this point storm sewer within that street section, which is a great benefit that the residents will have now in the future, is including the traveling public. Contractor we work with was Jackson Construction. The contract amount is a little over $5.5 million, and we met today. We're trying to finalize everything out. We feel like in about the next 3 weeks, we'll be 100% complete and be closing the project out. So we're very pleased with it. We think the residents, the vast majority of the residents that live along that stretch have been very supportive and very helpful. And we thank them for that because it's been very disruptive for the community as well as those residents. But they've done a great job of working with us because we had them cut off at times from the driveway, and we had them sharing parking and parking remotely and other things. And we really appreciate the great cooperation we got from our citizens along there. And we got to meet some of them and got to know some of them a lot better. And that's always a good thing as well when you go through a project like this. So with that, I think have I missed anything?
Well,
Anybody want to say anything else? You come up here with me. Okay, they don't want to say anything right now. That's it, Mayor.
yeah, on a project this size, there's always going to be challenges that you face. But the end result, I think, is something that not only this council and the mayor appreciates, but Tim Royce from District 5, who represents Griffith Avenue, is very pleased with the outcome and the improvements that have been made for the city. We all benefit in the end, so thank you for that hard work.
I just want to pass on that this is also the kind of project that can become an absolute albatross around the city's neck, and it can be the kind of thing that you can completely screw up and completely ruin, and you could be making a 5-year job out of an 18-month job. And my very deep and sincere thank you to you guys, because it was a well-thought-out plan, and more than that, it was a well-executed plan. And I think that day-to-day look at it, stare at it, critique it, make it better, hold people accountable who are our contractors, hold hands with our residents, all of that is an enormous amount of very complicated work. And there's a lot of cities that would have looked at this project and said, well, we had to tag 2 or 3 years onto the end of it, but by golly, we sure got it done after extra years. And we didn't do that. We ended this project very close to when we thought we would end it, and you should be very, very proud of that. So I hope you wrote your name in the concrete somewhere, because you should have a lot to be proud of.
Hey, and Mayor Ronnie got to ride a bicycle. I think she was the first bike on that road. But
Yes.
at this time, I'd like to present a little gift of thanks to the staff. If they would come forward, I'll hand it to you, and then if someone will take a photo. Council, if you want to come forward, you're welcome to come up. And if y'all don't like the cookies, I'm just saying, Mary, those are good cookies. Thank you. Are we all here?
You want to show our cookies?
Yes, show your cookies.
Excuse me?
Show your cookies. Hey, are we wearing masks?
I was thinking about showing my cookies. I got in trouble one time, she was rock wall for showing my cookies. Go ahead.
Are we good? Thank y'all. Thank you.
Really?
So next we have another recognition that we would like to do, and that's for the Parks Department team. Because of COVID-19 and the space available here in council chambers, we're going to actually do this one outside. So we're going to be gone for just a minute while we go do a recognition to the parks individuals that were involved in the renovations at the park. We have, would you come forward and just tell us who all was involved in that?
Mr. Mayor, Council, we had a host of employees involved in this particular project. I'll start with the front office: Demeter Turner, Sharon Hudson, Sherry Davis, Mr. Cornell Horn, Percy Butler, Ivan Narete, Faustino, and Who else am I leaving out?
James?
Our operations manager, Jamie Clove, and I think there's one more I'm leaving out, and I gotta think who it is.
Rushan?
Branche and Jeremy. What's Jeremy's last name? Kristen. Those are the team that was involved in that project, and they all played a key role, and we're grateful for their services and commitment to the city of Terrell.
And Faustino Ortiz?
Ortiz,
Yeah.
there we go. Ortiz, thank you.
So
Can you go over them one more time?
I know. I went there.
Hey, you know what? We make decisions here from the council, but it's you guys that are out there actually doing the work. And I know for me and for the rest of the council, we say thank you for your hard work, dedication to get this stuff done. Y'all are the nuts and bolts of what keeps things going, and we appreciate it so much. So we're going to go outside and do the presentation and a photo.
Glenn, you gotta say all that again outside.
During those recognitions, this time we'll hear remarks from visitors if we have any. Dawn, do we have any? We don't have anyone. At this time, the mayor would like to move item 6.4 up, so we want to suspend the rules if there's no objections in doing so. Is there any objections?
No, sir.
Hearing none, the mayor will move that we move item 6.4, discuss 2021 Chamber of Commerce 4th of July fireworks show up and discuss it next. We have Carlton Tidwell with the Chamber of Commerce, and this is going to be led by our city manager, Mike Sims.
So, Mayor and Council, this is something where I'm really proud that we are growing up as a community, and we have more and more folks all the time who want to enjoy our fireworks. One of the problems we've had for years associated with the fireworks is that it is awfully close to an apartment complex, and we've been looking at different ways to solve that problem. If you take a look at, I believe it's agenda item page 67, there is a location identified there, and I wouldn't call it perfect, but we do think we have a great opportunity to update our location for the annual July 4th fireworks show. And of course, the sponsor for that is the Chamber of Commerce, so I want to thank Carlton Tidwell for being here tonight. Carlton, take it away.
Thank you, Mike, Mayor and Council, thank you. We started this discussion just a few months ago because of the issues we have with fireworks raining down on the Timbers apartment complex. So we have to put a fire truck over there. And obviously with schools expanding, the Excel Center, it was a good opportunity to look at a change in locations for that. Along with that came opportunity to highlight the British Flying Training School because it will be out there, and they may have an opportunity at some point to benefit from that. And also, one of the long-term goals that the Chamber views from this is our own opportunity to put together something similar to what the Addison Airport does, a Kaboom Town show. A long-term advantage there would be, we've got the airport, we've got the room, we've done air shows there before, we know how to get people in and out, and so as we start to go down this road and start to see how it works out there, that's an opportunity to expand and hopefully make another great event for the city of Terrell. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. By the way, if you didn't know or if you don't know, the money for the fireworks show comes from our civic auction every year. That money's raised, goes right back into the community for this event. So that is how that is paid for.
Got some good stuff this year.
Well, so I guess traffic issues for in and around the airport, and who would have access and who wouldn't. Is that
So
to be
a
worked
couple
out?
of, lots of details yet to be worked out. The basics related to traffic are to remember that we will definitely have opportunities for folks to go in on Silent Wings, make some access points up on the north side. We'll have access opportunities on British Flying School Road. There's also the opportunities all along State Highway 34, and there's opportunities in Kings Creek Park to have a really good viewing location for this. So we feel like part of what works about this is that this is actually going to look great from the Tanger parking lot. So we need to test drive the different approaches here. The map that you see here is one of several different locations at the airport that we're playing around with. So I think that we'll have maybe a little movement in that over the next couple of years as we kind of say, all right, we like this, we didn't like that. So yeah, just like we do manage traffic around 9th Street now, we'll definitely be managing traffic on British Flying School Boulevard, managing traffic on Silent Wings, but we think we can handle that, and we're going to give the Chamber an opportunity to partner not only with their with the auction, but also develop a partnership over the years with the British Flying Training School Museum folks and see how large we can make this event.
One of the things to remember is we, if you'll remember, traffic out of Ben Gill Park was always pretty tough. So it was you didn't necessarily picnic before, you picnicked after too, because waiting for traffic to get out, and we learned a lot of lessons doing that. And we'll learn more as we experiment with the airport area. But it does give us a great opportunity to expand that event, and it solves another issue on location as well. So.
Okay.
July 4th, what day of the week is that going to be in 2021?
No.
Okay.
Councilman, I don't know, but another reminder for that is we've had Pyro Shows of Texas is the company that in fact does the Kaboom Town Addison Airport show. So they are experts on airport shows. We've had contracts with them for more than 25 years, which is why we consistently have the July 4th date. And so it will always be, Councilman Whitaker will always be on July the 4th as long as we keep our contractual.
It should be a really good,
Sunday evening, so it'll be a good time.
it'll be a great time. A lot of people have that Monday, July 5th off, and so it should be a good year for fireworks.
No, I don't have any, does anybody have any concerns or heartburn?
It's not a voting item for council.
Yeah.
It's a Chamber of Commerce event, and we'll just coordinate it through the airport. So Glenn will be involved in coordination. Fire chief's on the line. He's already been in the meetings about this. It really helps us. I don't know how many of y'all brought up that page 67, but you can see there, my question was, can we have bigger fireworks if we move to the airport? And the answer to that is yes.
Yes, to get bigger shells, all it takes is more money.
Yeah.
Bigger auctions mean bigger shells.
Right.
So I would almost make a plea for come to the auction, next October. But no, every 2-inch graduation in shells adds another 100 feet of safe space. So the answer to that is yes, until we run out of the safe space, we can make them bigger and bigger.
No, I'm excited for you. I think this is a good thing, and looking forward to July 4th. Well, and there's no, like, the issue was sometimes the crowd got too close. Right?
Yes, that's always been the issue in Ben Gill Park is because of where the pavilion's set. When we marked everything off, with the lake in between them, there wasn't any way to secure the pavilion.
Okay.
And so people were a little bit closer than they would have liked, even though they were on the outer edge of the safe space.
The industry that is in and around there, is that, who's that? That's not Madix.
That's Madix.
It's Madix.
Yeah.
Are they aware of the new move or anything? They're real close. Is that one of their buildings that is?
They're not as close as it looks like.
Okay.
They're well outside the safe space, but we will include them.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm
in
good.
discussion.
It's a big upgrade for us. Right now, we have an apartment complex in the exclusion zone, and to have a warehouse and a manufacturing facility outside of the exclusion zone, that's a step up in safety.
Cool.
Yep.
I'm good.
Other than, thank you, Carlton. Other than being a location change, our staff contributing their time from safety to Glenn's team here, is there anything else that would impact us as a city?
I don't believe so. One of the things that the contractor that Carlton hires will coordinate through our fire chief and through Glenn Caldwell will be the notifications at the airport. So if you recall what we used to do when we had the fly-in and air show going at the airport was that you do a notification through FAA that I end up signing or used to sign every year related to that, which was a closure of the airport. And so we'll process some paperwork with the FAA. That has to come from us, not from the chamber. And we'll process some paperwork to say, okay, at this time in the afternoon on July 4th, we close the airspace, and the airspace will stay closed through this other time that evening. We make that window as small as we can, but we'll have to make that window big enough for the fireworks crew to get in there and have a good, safe setup time and plenty of time to make sure that their equipment's where it should be and safe and that sort of thing. So that's the other step for us, which is just staff notifying the FAA and doing some FAA paperwork.
And if I remember correctly, Councilwoman, we were already doing, they were already doing a paperwork similar to that because of the distance from Bengill Park to the airport. We were having to notify the FAA as it was already. We were not closing airspace, but they had to be notified that fireworks were being fired, so.
Right, okay, that makes sense.
Well, I also want to take this opportunity to say thank you to the Chamber and Carlton. When we talk about partnerships and when we're talking about working together, Carlton and the Chamber reaching out to the city and trying to find a solution to an issue and then working together to find the location. That doesn't happen in a lot of cities. And we need to keep that spirit alive and going, moving forward with the Chamber, with the city, with the school district, with all of our partners, right? So thank you for coming and sharing that, and we look forward to a good 4th of July.
Thank you, Mayor.
You have something you want to say?
Well, just that, we know our children, whole generation is growing up with those fireworks.
Right.
Maybe a generation and a half, but an entire generation is growing up with those fireworks.
And you're gonna still have people that are going to Bengill Park to watch the fire. We better make sure we have some.
Some advertising on
Show them
that.
higher so people can see them from there.
Well, good. Well, thank you for coming.
District 3 would be happy to have you. And if you would like to get some fireworks, say District 3 or number 3, we would appreciate that. We would not decline.
All right.
Thank you, Carlton. Thank you for your time. All right, our next item on the agenda, John Godwin, would you come forward? We're going to discuss sign ordinance update. For the record, before you get started, Godwin, we have remotely Councilman Grady Simpson, Mayor Pro Tem District 2. We have in the chambers Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, District 3, Charles Whitaker, District 4, and soon to join Tim Royce, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem District 5. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the project sign code update, or really, it's pretty much a...
When did he sneak in? There he is.
He's at the kids' table.
Sorry about that. He's no longer remote. He's in council chambers, for the record. Go ahead.
Thank you. So this is a rewrite, thank you. This is a rewrite of the sign code. It doesn't work.
It doesn't always work.
And so, kind of some reasons you'd want to do an update to the sign code, and that's, any kind of code is going to get old and outdated as time goes by. Sign codes are especially susceptible to that compared to some other codes because of so many changes. There's state law changes that'll have an impact on sign code, what you can and you cannot do to restrict signs. There are changes in technology. There's electronic signs now that once upon a time there were not. That were out there, so you have to have ordinances that address that in the proper way. Signs are also addressed so often in most cities in other places besides just the sign code. You'll have it in a zoning ordinance, you'll have it in a BOA decision, you'll have it in an election code, you'll have it in all kinds of different places. So it's also periodically good to make sure they all match so that there's not inconsistencies in the laws you're trying to enforce, but also try to get them all in one place and get them all updated. Another big opportunity you have is court cases. In the last 20 years, especially about 8 or 9 years ago, 10 years ago, sign codes around the country were pretty restrictive, and more businesses, property owners sued, and in a lot of cases, they won those cases. And so there's a lot of restrictions with sign codes. The biggest thing, not to go into a lot of details about that, but the biggest thing is content neutrality. The notion there is that, at least in theory, it's not always the truth, always the case, but this is the idea, is that if you don't know how to read or write, whatever English that sign is in, whatever language that sign is in, you can determine if it's legal or not. So it doesn't matter what it says, it matters if it's big, if it's moving, if it's bright, if it's in the wrong place. Those are the kinds of things you can control. There's some exceptions to that, but that's the basic concept of it, is content neutral. You can't treat a political sign different than you can a McDonald's sign. You can, based on where it is, but not based on the content. And there, again, there's some exceptions to that. That's a big deal. And so one of the things we have to go back through our ordinances is to try to make it as content neutral as possible so that it passes First Amendment muster. And so this is a big ordinance. It's 24,000 words. It's, I don't know, 60 pages long. And so Mr. Whitaker, I think, is the only person that's read it so far on the council, based on the look on his face. So tonight we're not going to talk about all that. You don't have copies of that yet. In fact, it's still in draft form. Staff and I are still working on several different areas, but just kind of some major changes or major clarifications or policy points. First thing I want to talk about is billboards. Billboards isn't really changing a whole lot, but it's a big deal. Billboards can be are defined as between 100 and 250 feet in the current version of the ordinance. You can have changeable messaging, but changeable messaging, in the old days was a couple of guys on a ladder would rip off the old paper and put on a new one. When we were young, Mr. Wicker, but now it's a lot different. There's still that too, of course, but there's messaging. And you have to be really careful with the messaging, because if you're not, it can be blinking messaging, which can make people have wrecks and get distracted. So there's in the draft ordinance, there's restrictions on how long the message has to stay put. And the way those are supposed to work, and when they came out, was that you would only see one sign in the time it took you to drive past it, and that's kind of a hard thing to measure, of course. But if the messaging sign that changes messages works correctly, the driver's not supposed to know that it's even a changing message. They might come back and are like, well, that's a different message. And they come back, it's another message. So there's delays of 10 seconds, 8 seconds, depending on the speed limit, the type of road you have, and so that's the way you handle that. The electronic displays, the changeable messaging, we don't allow flashing, we don't allow bright lights, we don't allow those kinds of things, and even the light behind the messaging or the light on the messaging, if it's an old school sign, is a certain lumens, certain brightness, so that it doesn't blind a driver or distract the driver, because safety, of course, is super important. Billboards are only allowed around 20 and 557, only in highway corridors only, so that's the way the draft ordinance is written now. Monument signs have been around for a long time, and more and more we want to make monument signs required for detached signs, not attached signs, but if they're detached signs that are not part of the building, we want them to be monument signs. That's especially important in downtown, the CBD, but that's going to be everywhere except within the highway zone, and even there to some extent, that we want monument signs. So that's a change. That doesn't mean if you don't have a monument sign right now at the Canyon Church, that's not here obviously, that you have to change it right away. There's provisions for grandfathering. There's provisions for you to bring your signs up to date to come into compliance. You don't have to go tear down your signs right away. But we're trying to get away from the pylon signs, the pole signs. Those are old school. They're not nearly as attractive. They cause sight clutter. They cause light clutter. And these are the modern signs, and these are the kinds of things you want your community to reflect. And so these are the kinds of signs that we want to have in Terrell. And then next, political signs. And I'm showing this sign particularly because within the draft ordinance, you won't hardly see the word political sign at all. Probably, maybe it's not in there at all, because political signs need to be treated like other kinds of things. And in this case, it says 45 days before the election. So you can have it 45 days before the election. That's also true 45 days before a grand opening, 45 days before certain kinds of sales, 45 days before the great big white sale for Columbus Day. It doesn't matter what the content is. It's so many days before an event, an election, a grand opening, whatever the event is. So it becomes a special event sign or a special thing sign that has a specific time. You can say it's up 10 days after to get rid of it. Can't be more than 36 square feet. Can't be more than 8 feet tall. No movement, no illumination. And the total number is limited. So, for example, a quarter-acre property, you can have 4 signs of 8 square feet apiece. Or you could have one big one, you could have 4 small ones. You could have 2 medium-sized ones. So there's a number, it's a formulaic thing. So that you've got a number of signs, total square footage, and a maximum square footage for one sign. And then this is a...
Can I just say,
Yes, sir.
there's a couple of variations between this presentation and the one that's actually in your packet. So John's kind of fighting through that, but the page you're on now is going to be 74. So there's a little shuffle in some of the
Is it the
slide
next one?
deck here.
No.
That's fine. You can do the slide.
I wouldn't mind going to the next one next.
The temporary signs.
The temporary signs goes with what I was just talking about better anyway, if that's what you have next. So if you go to the temporary, the next, yeah.
I've
So-
seen that sign.
So,
I've got one. No,
so a political sign rather than a separate type sign, it's a temporary sign. It can be up a certain period of time, ready to do a special event, whether it's a divorce sale or it's an election or whatever it is. Garage sales, yard sales, estate sales, all those kinds of things. They're also allowed for directional signs. Other kinds of signs are just not allowed. Frequency, and again, just like the political signs, same thing. So this is a broader category than political signs. We're talking political signs because political signs are, in most cities, the one that people think about the most, people get tired of the most, especially election season, especially every 4 years, because there's a lot more, usually during presidential election season. People get mad, people fuss and fight, and usually council, let's get rid of all these political signs. You know, and then, but people have a constitutional right. It's been determined by court case after court case. They have a right, but you can, within limits, restrict them. You just want to make sure that, you know, you don't get sued. If you do, you want to make sure you don't lose. But that's true of all these things. So basically, again, beating this to death, but the political signs are going to be like this. It's a type of temporary sign. So any kind of temporary sign, we've got in the draft ordinance, how long it can be up, where it can be, how many signs you can have, how big they can be, and again, the same things, no lights, no illumination, none of that sort of thing. It covers flags, it covers banners, it covers holidays, even has some stuff in there about Christmas lights and those kinds of things. There's some signs you can have that don't count against you, like you can have a 1 foot by 1 foot, or 1 square foot sign on your window, that doesn't count against your 36 foot total. You can have a 2 foot sign on your property, like if you've got a little sign that says, you know, I love dogs or terriers or whatever you said. You know, you can just leave that. That doesn't count against you. It's a small sign. And you see those kinds of signs in people's yards that they have a cause or a passion or what, you know, United Way, you know, those kinds of things. A little bitty sign, those don't count against you, but almost all signs, there's just a few exceptions, almost all signs count against that maximum length of time, against that maximum number of signs, and against that maximum square footage for temporary signs. Do you have any questions about any of those?
Well,
Mayor, when you get through.
so mine would, if you define event, because what if my event is a yard sale? Can I claim that?
Yeah, and those are defined in this
Okay.
ordinance. It's one of the reasons it's so long.
Okay.
But yeah, a garage sale, a yard sale, those are specifically spelled out in the ordinance and how they're done. You can have one off-site, you can have one on-site. I'm just making up those numbers. I think you can have more than that.
we're good.
So all of those are specifically addressed. And then finally, if you go back to the previous one, I'm sorry. I still wanted to talk about it, I just skipped it. And that was the city property, because that's a big deal. And, I'm sorry, you still had a question, I'm sorry.
Okay. Can we limit the size of signs? I mean, you know, for an example, I may get run out of here, but what we normally consider yard signs that are 18 by 24 or whatever, can we limit political signs to that size sign?
You probably can. The draft ordinance limits them to, I think, 6 square feet. So that allows for a 2 by, or 5 square foot, 2.5 by 3 foot signs, what's allowed in the draft.
You think about it like this. There's going to be categories in the sign ordinance that you're working within. So one category is going to be, for example, my own front yard. Okay, in my own front yard, what message sign can I put up because I want to espouse that I have such and such candidate that I'm a big fan of. I want you to vote for this candidate on this day. So John's going to have a number in the ordinance that says if it's a temporary sign and it's saying related to this temporary event, the election, that you want to have that point of view, then there's a maximum size for what can be in your yard. But that's going to be different when I then graduate up to, I have a 20-acre agricultural property. That rule might be a different size of sign.
Well, you know, for instance, your one slide showed that what we consider the big political signs could be as tall as 8 feet. We don't want that. You know, what we normally call 4x4s or whatever, that's pretty big. We don't want that height to be any higher than 4 feet.
Well, is it proportional to the land, what you own?
It is in certain zoning districts. In residential, it's a specific, you can have this big, and I don't know all the numbers off the top of my head.
Well,
But,
yeah.
but yeah, it's, in residential, it's pretty restrictive, of course. In industrial, agricultural, retail, commercial, it is different. It is proportional. It can be proportional to the size of your lot. It can be proportional to the size of your building, if it's this tall, if it's this wide. So there's a lot of proportions in this, so it tries to make sense. Even in some cases, it tries to address, you know, the size of the road, so that it makes sense for the road, and how far the setback is. So there's a kind of a combination of things.
And what I was hoping in John's presentation today is to give us the opportunity as staff to sort of listen to y'all, because if you are inclined one way or another, we need to know as we're crafting this ordinance that you're preferring lots of flexibility in size, and really big signs are okay, or we need to hear from you to say, nah, figure out what the minimum is, right? You know, we need to start getting that feedback from you.
Yeah, and if you think that 32 is just too big for those kind of temporary event message signs, then we can sure scale that back. And that's, again, like, that's kind of a starting point.
I guess when we talk about signs, I mean, there's a difference between like a sign and a banner.
Right.
She's an expert on sign.
Y'all gotta make Terry Barber mad.
Terry Martin.
But I mean, no, this is only for signs. I mean, we're not talking about, you know, banner, because if you
We are talking about
a
banners.
sign,
Banners is defined as a type of sign, because it carries a message.
because I'm thinking about, you know, whether it's a political sign or whether it's, you know, a school sign.
Right.
And now we're saying, you know, now it can't be such height or such length. I guess just keep it in mind, the different types of signs and the definitions of signs.
I think that's,
for banner.
I think you'll find John's ordinance will get you there, because what he's gravitating to is more this math formula of total square foot of sign you can have in a given location.
Right, and just to be clear, hopefully, is that I'm kind of hitting some of the high points. But for example, there's all kinds of commercial signs, the wall signs and different kinds of attached signs, and those are very much proportional. And under the definition of banners, there's two different kinds of banners. There's a banner like a grand opening sign, and it can be 32 square feet, just like any other kind of sign. But if it's a Christmas sign or something like that, I don't remember now, but it's a lot bigger. So different types of signs can matter. Seasonal, it can't be Christmas because that's content specific, but so there's those kinds of things. And you're trying to do a lot of restrictions without violating your content neutrality, and that's why I've read it 17 times, and I don't want to read it again, because it just...
Right. Well, so, is the ordinance available to us yet?
So can we get to the next step slide? I'm not sure if we can. That's what I wanted to concentrate on. Okay, it's on agenda item page 75. Agenda item page 75 says next steps. And basically, it's got the beautiful picture of a poor city in Iowa or somewhere that's got a lot of pole signs, billboards in the wrong place. It is the clutter and mess we're trying to avoid. And so that's agenda item page 75, and it says next steps. So what are our next steps here? John's got to make the rounds, listen to council, but get you guys thinking about it. He's got to go over to the chamber, meet with them in the EDC, get some feedback from those guys, because that's the businesses we're going to be regulating here. He needs to get in front of planning and zoning. He's been to planning and zoning once to get them thinking about them. Obviously, there's a lot of legal issues here. So as he gets through that, and I'm going to say that it's going to be hard to do that in 60 days. By the time he does that, we need to end up at a P&Z meeting, and we need to ask P&Z to vote on something. So they're going to have some real in-depth time with this. So as you're looking at this and driving around and thinking about it, and if you say, well, you know what, and some of you guys are great at this, send me some photographs of signs that you hate. Send me some photographs of signs that you love. I'll get them over to John, and we'll and it can't be content specific, thank you. It's got to be, here's types of signs, sizes of signs. If you start sending us information about I love it, I hate it, then we can get that to John and we can kind of get that worked into the program here, because basically any photograph you send over to us probably has 5 paragraphs of description in the ordinance that it takes to really nail down, well, what does that mean, and under what circumstances yes, and under what circumstances no. That's why it is it's a brain surgery project that John's been assigned here, but we'll work through the process, and it'll be a little while before you see it again. I just wanted you to start being able to think about it.
Hey, Mayor, I've got a comment and a question. The question is monument signs. Have you nailed down a ballpark on the size of your monument?
There are sizes in the ordinance, and I don't know those off the top of my head, and they are to some extent related to the size of the building.
Okay.
So if it's a 3-story building, your banner, your marquee sign, your different things can be bigger, and your monument sign can be bigger. Monument signs are really more related to the size of the property or the frontage of the property. You can have 2 if you front on 2 streets, for example. You can have only 1 if you only front on 1 street, those kind of things. So they're in there, but I don't know them off the top of my head.
Okay.
If you've got a thin lot with 50 foot of frontage, you're not going to have the maximum size monument sign, because the idea is there's not enough room for it. If, on the other hand, you're Walmart, right, and you've got a 500 foot of frontage on your lot, then you're going to be allowed to have a larger sign because you have the space for it. It's a lot of proportionality rules involved
if
here.
you've got, like, if you have multiple buildings, if you're a residential subdivision that's maybe, that's got a lot of, or a better example would be a commercial strip center or whatever it is, if you've got 27 different stores, those are going to be a lot different than if you just got an accountant, that
Sure.
she or he's going to have a much smaller sign. But,
Sure.
But there are standards for that, absolutely.
Okay. And then my comment is, hey, this is back in my Terra baseball days. 72 square foot was the size of banner that we used, and that's kind of a size that the school uses too. So when you think of baseball sign-ups, football sign-ups, kind of it's a 6 by 12 banner. So I'm just going to throw that number out there, y'all.
Yeah.
Which is
And that's helpful, because I don't know, you guys may have dealt with this before, I don't know. You got some really old stuff in there, so I'm guessing probably not, but a lot of these numbers, from political signs, political signs, you've had to run for your jobs, but a lot of signs that sound huge, they're not that big if you're on a busy road or a road with a pretty fast speed limit. I know we dealt with that in Fairview years ago, and they were like, oh, gee, a 30-foot sign, that's just huge, John. And then when you drive it, I couldn't read it. It wasn't big enough. So keep in mind those numbers. Like, that number may sound really big to a lot of people, but it's not really all that big when if you're up on it, it looks big. If you happen to get it out of your truck and hang it up, it's really big. If you're driving down the road, it's not that big. So some of the numbers you see may be big, and let me know if you think they are, but just keep that in mind. That driving by at 40 miles an hour makes it seem a lot smaller.
Yeah, I know the answer before I even asked, but I'm sure with the monument signs, there was consideration given to obstruction of traffic.
Sure.
And things like that.
Yeah, it has to be set back so far, it can't be in the triangle of the corner, the vision triangle, those kinds of things.
If we've addressed safety and we've addressed our legal, last thing I want is for us to go to court on something.
Yeah.
But if we've addressed those two, legal's good with it, then I think we're moving in the right direction. I think what we need to do is let him move forward with it, get it presentable to us, review it. If we have any comments, we'll do that.
Absolutely. The message here is we love council input. If you've got thoughts or you see things you want to send us, send us info, and as we craft this thing, you'll have been at the beginning instead of just at the end. Yeah.
One last thing I just wanted to stick in, just as you think about signs or look at signs. Another more recent court case, and we don't know if it's going to hold up, but this has been since August, I think, and that's taking content neutrality yet another step. So a lot of ordinances, including your existing ordinance, distinguishes between on-site signs and off-site signs, or advertising signs versus business signs. Well, according to this most recent court case, you can't do that anymore. So if you're advertising widgets that are sold in Shreveport versus widgets that are sold right there on that property, according to this court case, they have to be treated the same. And there's kind of some ways to deal with that. We don't call them off-site and on-site signs in this ordinance. We call them signs. And so we're kind of going at that, but if some of that stuff seems a little awkward or weird, that's one of the reasons why we think it's perfectly legal, and we think it's a good way to deal with it, no matter how the court case if it gets reversed or not. But there's some stuff, you might look for, if you dealt with an sign code, you might look for, well, on-site or on-site or off-site, and that's almost not mentioned in the ordinance at all, just like political signs. Just we're having to work with it a different way to make sure we're legal.
Excellent. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll move on to item number 6.1, discuss City Hall remodel. This is going to be handled by City Manager Mike Sims, Emergency Management Coordinator Dustin Connor. Mr. Sims.
So yes, we actually have a little team working on this. We're also going to hear from our municipal court judge on this. I'm going to invite you to go first to, I think it's agenda item page 9. Agenda item page 9 is it says preliminary space plan for city manager and utilities. So if you kind of find that in your packet, you can see that what we've done is sort of reimagined what it ought to look like under COVID-19 times and under high-tech times for us to have a lobby that makes sense, a council chamber that makes sense, and then some of our office spaces get rearranged a little bit to make sense. And so I'm going to walk you through this a little bit because this is the end zone that we're going to get to. You walk in the lobby on your left. Instead of seeing the city secretary's office, we really need to bring our utility manager up front and center there. We need to have a little private area so that if you've got a problem with your utility bill, you don't have to talk about it out front with everybody. If you've got a medical issue like COVID-19 that's making you late on your water bill payment, you don't need to be talking about that in the lobby. You need a private place for that. And so that very first space right on the left, you might imagine that we're just basically taking Dawn's current office and cutting it in half, one half of it being for consultation with folks who have a problem with their bill, and the other half of it being the utility billing manager's office. The utility billing area, you can see that we're preserved the drive-through window location right there, trying to make a little bit more of an efficient space there, more modern workspace for our employees, and you can see how we've arranged that in the utility billing area. It'll also have an information window there because we'll be doing a more secure approach to City Hall. You really need to come in a modern work environment and check in. We have a lot of paperwork that we want to keep private, and so that information window will be a chance for folks to come forward and say, hey, I need to meet with a member of staff at City Hall. I've got an appointment, or I need to make an appointment. So utility billing will be providing some customer service function there that we used to have receptionist providing the assistance for, but we have staff available there, and we think it's important to have them play that customer service role. You'll notice that that means I didn't show you a place for municipal court. So I'm going to have Judge Smith come up in just a minute and explain what we're doing with municipal court. But pause on that idea for a minute and realize that we're making a little bit of extra space here by moving municipal court elsewhere. So once you go through the secure area there, you can get to the spot where Elmira is, basically open that door, but as you know, there's quite the traffic problem at Elmira's current desk, and this opens this up so that we're not standing on top of each other in that space. And you can see how that works. You can see that we're using the old city manager office as the city manager office. Again, we're not doing that right now, but we're really making it capable of having a big conference table in that room as well. I think we'll find that to be very useful for consulting with council, and when council needs a little bit of a workspace, we'll have that available. That reception area carries around on the other side. Now you might think of that as the old assistant city manager office, the one I'm using right now. That old assistant city manager office goes away, and basically that's the backside of Elmira's office, and then you get an entrance to a city secretary office for Dawn and an entrance to the public information office for Allison. We think having that team together is a big, big advancement that all of us have wanted to do. Those of us kind of walking back and forth between city manager office area and city secretary space currently, we will like it quite a bit that we're able to have a better work team there. So that's the idea. That's a quick view of what that is. Glenn's working on getting us pricing and all of that now. This is all a reaction to COVID-19, so this is all going to be eligible for reimbursement because we're reworking this space for COVID-19 reasons and providing more health and safety for our work areas, more separation for the public, so when the public comes in, they're not sitting up on top of each other. One of the things you're going to see here in the lobby area is that because there's more space in the lobby, we're going to be able to handle our crowds in a much better way. And so as people come back in and start paying utility at the utility billing window, this is going to give us an opportunity to serve them without having them sitting on top of each other. On days, back in the olden days, when we had an open lobby, municipal court going on at the same time that utility billing was having a busy day, we could really pack people in there. And it was really just something that we're not going to be able to do in the modern era. The other part of all of this, and also reimbursable through our some of our COVID-19 grants, is a technology upgrade in the city council chambers. I didn't try to put that on this because I'm going to have Dustin Connor give you a presentation in a minute here about where we're going with the technology improvements on the inside of the city council chambers. So I'm going to pause here and ask Judge Smith to come up. Judge, the big question, of course, is, well, wait a minute here. We just reworked our lobby and area for municipal court. Where are we sending municipal court?
Good evening, almost, I guess. Municipal court will be in the Rosenbaum room, the actual courtroom. It's a multi-purpose room, so our plan is, and I just found out on the phone that the furniture should be here next week. So we're going to have mobile furniture. We'll have a court bench, a witness stand, possibly a jury box area, but it's all going to be on casters. So it'll look professional, but when we're finished with court, we'll just roll it in the storage room. That way, if the police officers have a training that week or the next day, then they can use it. So that's where the courtroom will be, and I'll start from outside. The positives, I think, of the move. Well, first of all, you have a bigger parking area. We have a more secure courtroom, a quieter area for court. Mike just mentioned, during court, there's a lot of people in this lobby, even during COVID. And so it's noisy. We're not going to have that issue there. We do have a bigger lobby there. People with seating if people need to wait. But I think it's a big advantage for the court clerks to be there also. They're going to be housed where the records clerks are now. There'll be 5 ladies there, 2 court clerks, 3 clerks that are already there. Now they do a lot of work that people don't realize, back and forth all day, and they kind of go hand in hand, the records and the municipal clerks. And they're running on the road a lot to drop off paperwork. Now they're going to be together. We're going to be in a more secure location, so there's some different software we're going to be able to use that we can't use here because utility clerks are in there and other people. This is going to allow us to have a more efficient court. It'll allow us to do some background checks that we have do on defendants that we can't do now. They have more room, quieter space, and I will office down the hall from them. So I think it's an asset for me to be there also for the police department and be accessible to the officers. I sign a lot of warrants during the day, 2 or 3 trips a day, and I'm more accessible to the jail staff. So when I go out in the mornings for arraignments, I'll be able to arraign people that get arrested throughout the day now. So it's going to be a more in and out efficient, jail time there. So as long as they're arraigned, then we can let them out. We're not having to feed them overnight, and should save a little money too. So I'm excited about it. We should start moving just a little bit, maybe at the end of this week, first of next week. I would like to be operating about December 18th, somewhere right in there. So we're working on phones and computer lines, and again, the furniture, we're getting my office ready, and trying to get some software going, and Our first court date out there, our last court date here should be December 16th. The computer should move over on the 17th, start working the 18th, and then we should have a court date in the middle of January there. So we shouldn't slow down operations for court.
So I think probably one of the most important things that I heard so far is that we're not shutting the court down.
Right.
We're going to continue to operate.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to do business as normal. And then at the appropriate time, December the 18th, we'll move all the operations out to the facility, new
Yes.
facility. Now, the biggest question I think for me and probably the council, is this going to make us more efficient as a court and you as a judge?
Yes, I think we're limited on the number of people we can have in the courtroom right now because of COVID, but we should be able to have more court dates if needed. There's not going to be a scheduling conflict out there, but when this is all over, I mean, we hold a lot more people out there, so you have bigger dockets.
So, counsel, I was informed of this being a possibility some time back, right? One of the things that they discussed or talked about was redoing municipal court for this building. And as we started talking about it and figuring out, you know what, it's probably a temporary thing anyway, because the county and the city are going to work together for a new court facility, right? For the county.
The county bond program that passed in 2019 included the funding for a rework of their sub-courthouse, probably a new location for their sub-courthouse, and the idea being that we could have a shared space with them within maybe 3 or 4 years.
And so, as we discussed it a little bit, I thought probably the council wouldn't want to spend money and then have to redo it. And spending money and we don't have what we want, right? Mm-hmm. We're gonna have to move municipal court anyway. So the better option, and the judge and Mike came up with this, is maybe moving municipal court out to the police facility now and getting the city building the way we want it so that it's functionable and we don't have to redo it.
Yeah, I don't even want to quote you a number for the very difficult task of trying to get municipal court onto this layout that I'm showing you, because I could not stand the idea of what I would say would be doing municipal court wrong. We already are doing municipal court with our hands tied behind our backs because we're not letting our municipal court clerks use the software they need to be using to be efficient. And there's security reasons for that because they're sharing with utility billing. I can't have both groups of people in the same room at the same time with what needs to be on the computer screen. So we're creating this inefficiency, and there's really just not a way in the current city hall to provide for that security requirement of what needs to be on those what needs to be on the municipal court clerks' computer screens. You just can't take a round peg and shove it into that square hole, particularly when they're not the right size. It just didn't work. I think that this is really the right solution. I think it's a timely solution. And it also gets us over this hump of, you know what, no matter how many years it is between now and when we can do something cooperatively with the county, I think the Rosenbaum room will be a very, very good solution. I think Mike was right to bring it up. I would tell you that the other thing you got to think about it from our customers' point of view is they will be able to go in and use the lobby in the police headquarters to pay their fines, okay? That means I'm giving them a COVID-19 safe environment to go in and pay fines. And I think in this day and age, that's just an important part of the process. If you want to, you can still pay your court fine with the drive-through kiosk out here. So that's an available piece of technology. You're going to have options, but I think that's a great lobby environment for folks to be able to come in and make payment.
No, I think it was a great cooperative effort. It made sense. Does council have any questions or comments?
Not on the court, but on City Hall.
Yeah, we're gonna get to the city hall.
Yeah, so let me skip over to agenda item page 8. It's the one that says City Hall remodel sequence. So I'm just going to walk through 10 steps here, and I tried to simplify all of this. We're completing the municipal development remodel, side entry and hallway. We've talked to you guys about that before. Municipal court will then, on step 2, move over to the police headquarters. The municipal development clerks will move back to the newly remodeled municipal development offices. Step 4, the utility clerks then move into the lobby. The utility billing supervisor will move into the spare hallway office that we've got around the corner here. The drive-through is going to be closed, and new procedures are going to be implemented during demolition. We're going to try to get the drive-through back open as quickly as possible, but during this renovation process, we'll have to have it closed at least temporarily. My office will move to the one that we all know behind the council chambers temporarily. The city secretary, public information officer, and Elmira are all going to move to the Tommy Spencer room temporarily. We'll do all of the remodel to get to that battle plan that I showed you, okay? And get all that remodel done. Then we're going to do item 9. And item 9 is really one of the first things you'll vote on, because we need to get that equipment ordered. That's the complete update of AV and broadcast equipment in the council chambers. So Dustin Connor's going to present on that in just one moment. And then item 10, we'll all get back in the right space. And my hope is somewhere in the March time frame, we'll all be done with all of these steps and be happy back where we need to be and all up and running. So any other questions for the judge as we wrap that part of it up before we go to AV?
Judge, you happy with this?
Yes, very happy with it. I think it's going to be great.
You know, one of the things that happens when you visit an organization, whether it's a city or a business, is you get a sense and feel about that organization when you visit and you see how efficient and organized they are. And I think the way things are set up right now today, it's because we didn't have the room, or we don't have the ability to be as efficient as we can. Once all of this remodel is done, I think people are going to be impressed when they come into the city to do business. It'll look like we're organized, like we know what we're doing, and we're not sending people down the hallway and escorting them here and there. We'll have the right place for them to go, and that says a lot about the city moving forward, making good decisions for all of us, right?
Absolutely.
So
the end zone here is customer service, and I
Yes.
think we'll get there.
Right. Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next will be.
Hey, Rick,
Yes.
just a logistics question for Mike. So if you're going to municipal development, will you be going in the front door, or will you be going in the side door?
You're going to be going in the side door on Adelaide. Yeah, the entryway on Adelaide will be the municipal development entrance, and we're busy working on signage outside. That's that very first step in our efforts here, is to make sure that we've got really good signage on the outside. Len Caldwell and Charles Fenner and I are getting closer all the time to having that done.
So we did have a second part of this.
Yeah, the second part of this presentation is the AV equipment in this room, which when y'all are ready, we'll hand it over to Mr. Connor to make that presentation.
Yeah, I think we're ready to do it.
Dustin, are you there for us? There you go.
Mic's off.
Let's try again, sorry.
Okay.
It's technology, it's hard. All right, so we're going to talk about AV upgrade at the council chamber. So I'm going to get this shared over to you. All right, see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing is we're going to talk about what technology is in the council chamber now. We currently use an analog audio system that's several years old. It's started to provide some issues for us in sound quality. Even today, I can hear a little bit of a hum in the audio that's coming from inside the room. We have limited wireless capability. So when council gets up from the dais and they go out to do a presentation, we basically lose all audio. It's also out of date, and the audio mixer is unserviceable, so if we began to have issues with that mixer, there wouldn't be any way for us to repair that. We would just have to replace it. The video solution, currently we're using security style IP cameras and broadcasting them over the GoToMeeting. So if you're looking at the GoToMeeting screen now, under the city of Terrell, you can see the council bias and the presenter podium, but there's a small portion of that window. So we want to be able to fix that so you can actually see the presenter and you can actually see council. So that takes care of the next two items, the single video output and the poor video feed and for virtual council meetings. Presentation equipment, all the presentations are either handled remotely, like I'm doing now, but if they're in person, they have to be handled through the city secretary's workstation, which causes a problem for her because it keeps her from being able to continue to work. The system is also only usable at the council bias. So if we were to have a workshop or a council workshop or some type of city staff meeting in the back of the room, the system is unusable there just because there's no access to it. Currently, there's no capability for a presenter to connect their computer into the council chamber. The system that we have just doesn't support it. It's not a technology that exists right now in the current format. So let's talk about the proposed upgrades. Winnie today is Catherine Darshan from Carousel Industries, so he's going to be able to answer any of the technical questions that you guys might have. So he's there if something comes up that I can't be able to answer. But so here's what we know: we're going to upgrade our audio system to a digital system. We're going to add some wireless desktop microphones. This will allow for anybody who's outside of the council bias to have access to the microphone and audio system inside the building. So, for instance, right now, Councilman Lewis is sitting at the side table where there is the microphone that they had to use is from Don's position and was pushed over. This will eliminate that and just make it cleaner. It also allows us to be able to use the area in the back of the room, which we'll talk about in just a second, for a workshop settings and still have good audio coverage back there if we're in a place where we need to continue to stream that stuff. So we'll upgrade the existing ceiling mounted speakers and it'll provide a clear audio to streaming platforms so we won't have any of that hum or feedback that I can hear right now as I'm talking. The next step is the video solution. So we'll use video conferencing quality ceiling mounted cameras that look at the bias directly. And then another one that's going to be ceiling mounted that looks at the podium. So it'll take care of the kind of image issue when it comes out. Instead of only using a portion of that city of Terrell window that you're looking at right now, it'll actually take up the entire window, which makes for better quality video and kind of more interaction, understanding what's happening at the podium. And this is kind of an idea of what that will look like when we push that out to the streaming end. So this is the customer facing on the citizen end. When we're streaming out, this is what they'll see: presentation on the right, and then the camera will be on the left. Next thing is presentation equipment. So this is going to resolve the inability for us to be able to connect anything else to what Gen Council is right now through a system called Air Media from Crestron. It will tie directly into the Crestron system. Barcode clip share is another thing. The Crestron requires you to be on the network. The clip share will allow us to be off network to accomplish this. Podium cable connections, if you wanted to be able to provide somebody the ability to plug something into the podium, along with an in-ring computer which will support any workshop or staff meetings that are held at the back of the room. So let's talk about the back of the room. Next thing is the map wall. So the map that's on that back wall isn't up to date. I'm not sure how out of date it is, but as the IC limits and the other areas continue to change, it's just expensive to update that map. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to take that map down and replace it with a 98-inch display. That display is going to give us the ability to use it in workshop settings for a presentation, but also to have up-to-date maps that we'll just scroll through depending on how we have it set up. The other thing that TV will do is it'll let us use it in independent for workshops or for city staff meetings or in conjunction with the Crestron system during council meetings. There'll also be a video conferencing capability, so if we need to have a staff meeting and have somebody dial in, we'll be able to do that, or workshops the same way. And then the last kind of upgrade thing that we'll do is we're going to provide a link from the council chamber to the Tommy Spencer room, and it will allow for annexations or overflow to occur there, and then be able to see and hear what's happening in council chambers, just like what's on the screen now. The other nice thing about the Crestron system is that it can be all pre-configured. So with the push of a button, it'll select the room up as a council meeting. With another button, that'll set it up as a council workshop, which doesn't use any of the monitors of the dais, but instead uses the map wall. Or we can set it up for general meetings. There's a lot of different options to work through that, and that's something that Carousel is going to work with us on. So before you look at this picture too hard, this is something that I developed just to kind of give you an idea. Carousel didn't do this, so don't be too judgy. It's a guy who doesn't know how to do it, just trying to get it up there. But this is the general idea. So the monitor in front of the mayor right now already has the map that we want to switch to. This is going to cause the monitor to sit a little bit lower so that from out in the gallery you can more clearly see those that are at the council dais. And Mr. Mayor, that monitor is still adjustable. We haven't set that in place, so if we need to adjust that a little bit, we can do that. But this picture just kind of shows how things are going to be. So the monitors that are above Councilman Royce's head now, the one is already facing out towards the gallery. The other one will go to the other side and face out towards the gallery. And then there will be a monitor placed at the podium, a conference monitor. So when someone is there doing a presentation, they can see what's being shown to council and to the gallery. There's just kind of another image. It just really shows you the height difference for those who are in the chamber. And then this is an idea of what the map wall would be replaced with, just a 98-inch display that we can then set tables around and use as a workspace. So just a couple of things about the process. So we started off with 5 companies. We kind of gave everybody what we were looking for. We wanted there to be contract pricing. We needed to see references, project history, scope of work, and the most important thing to us was go-to support. Salesmen can be salesmen and tell you everything that you want to hear, but I want to know what happens after it's installed. What is service going to look like? Are there problems? What are some things that we need to plan for? And the company we ended up selecting was Carousel Industries. They're headquartered out of Rhode Island, but they're in 14 different states, and they have a huge place here in Plano. They've been around for 28 years. They have remote and on-site support, and they support the public and private sector. I went and saw the Cinemark headquarters in Plano. It's impressive. And they also did some projects for the city of Fort Worth here recently too. So that's all I've got about the upgrades. Really you can look around the room and anything that you see will most likely not still be there. The monitors that are above Councilman Royce's head, we're going to continue to use. The monitors that are on the dais and the microphones that are on the dais. Outside of that, everything else will be, every other piece of AV equipment will be replaced, including the nest that's around the corner. It'll be completely removed and replaced with a rack and more easily serviceable.
So, Mayor and Council, one of the other things in your packet this time around was 4 pages of very detailed list of equipment associated with this, and then the cost of installing all of it. So kudos to Dawn and to Dustin for working through this whole process. It's been quite an effort. So I'll say that it was probably 8 different vendors we started with. And then Dawn and Dustin were able to narrow that down to about 3 that were reasonable, and then 2, and then finally 1. Did a lot of reference checks with that. I appreciate Dustin's remark there about, some of the equipment is, as you study this, you might say, well, wait a minute here, a lot of this is stuff that you can go buy. These are not that complicated things. Each individual piece. It's not each individual piece that you're worried about, it's how they all work together, and is there a good team who's going to service all of that equipment 2, 3, 4 years down the line. That's what we wanted to make sure about, and so we're very comfortable with this vendor for that long-term support element. You can see the quote there of $122,000. This is on one of our cooperative buy boards, so we can move forward with the purchase from a buy board point of view. And then it will take, Dustin, you want to help me out on the period of time between ordering and installation?
So the project from approval, and it was on the last slide but I didn't show, sorry about that. From project to approval, it's they said about 6 to 8 weeks. It just kind of depends with the holidays coming up, that's going to affect that a little bit. And the other thing that I didn't mention is that this is also CARES CRF eligible for reimbursement.
So we will bring this back to you at your December the 8th meeting. We will ask you to approve $122,000, which we will hope to have reimbursed from some of the COVID-19 grant money that's available now. All of these improvements we feel are grant eligible for that COVID-19 reimbursement because they give our citizens a non-contact way of interacting with us. This improves our ability to communicate with our citizens from a remote point of view. It will improve our ability to bring in remote presenters. If you think Dustin's a little difficult and the PowerPoint's a little difficult, I think you'll be happier with that with this new technology upgrade that we're recommending. So on December the 8th, we'll ask you for action on this. The prices we're showing are just the AV equipment on the inside of this building, or inside of City Hall, I should say. All of the remodel costs of the layout that I showed you earlier, depending on how we do on bids and quotes and that sort of thing, I would be not surprised at all if we spent an additional $122,000 on the remodel of all of the other stuff on the inside of City Hall, but we're working through that pricing project at this time. So lots of spending here, but we think it's the right way to make our lobby and our work areas more appropriate from a COVID-19 point of view, improve municipal court with their technology upgrades being dependent upon needing to have that privacy and being in there with the records clerk over at the police headquarters, and then making sure we can really do the right thing with AV equipment. Dawn's done a lot of great work on this. So she's been quiet during this whole presentation, but having the city secretary intricately involved in this was a very important part of the process. So thanks to Dustin and Dawn for all their hard work, and then thanks to Glenn, who's going to lead our efforts to do the remodel on our adjacent spaces here.
So, council, the upgrades have been needed for some time. Obviously, COVID-19 has accelerated the need to get it done more quickly, and that's to protect the safety of our citizens, that they can still be involved in these public hearings, public meetings, and participate in a safe way without interference. We've all seen the frustration from Don as we've tried to deal with this technology. My concern is technology moves so fast. This quote, is this to is this the most up-to-date equipment that we can get, or is it, where is that, Dustin, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I did a lot of reading on the technology that was out there and trying to decide what the best thing to use was. We went and looked at a few different projects. One was a carousel project, actually two were carousel projects, and the others were not. But they were using the same technology, and it's this technology. And the Crestron system has been around forever, and they've just improved every time they change. But I think that we'll have years of support out of this.
Okay, thank you.
It would be remiss of me not to say that the head cheerleader on council for this for quite some time has been Tim Royce. And so I appreciate his input and thoughts on this. Right as I was leaving the North Central Texas Council of Governments, they were upgrading all of their meeting rooms with this kind of technology. So I've kind of lived through one of these upgrades before. They've been very happy with their Crestron controlled meeting rooms. So I can assure you we're going to be happy with this.
Hey, Mike, can we get Don to talk about, will the system allow us to record and segment our video for cataloging purposes?
Guess not.
Well, that's actually going to be probably a software that we have to buy in order to do that. But yes, I mean, the camera, the ability to use the camera and the recordings in different ways will be much easier than it is now.
Okay. I just want to make sure that they would match up with this system.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Yes.
this time, if anybody has any comments or questions, I guess Tim had his. You have another one?
Hey, Dustin, you did say there will be 2 room PCs or 2 abilities to actually use the map wall back here as an independent computer?
Monitor.
So we're going to use
Monitor.
We're going to use one computer to work both areas. Depending on what it is that we're doing, would depend on whether or not we need to use a second computer over at the, like in the workshop or back at the map wall. So my thought on that is if we were going to have some type of staff meeting or DRC meeting or whatever back there, then we would connect to the system using the backup picture or Air Media, since there will be an actual drop back there. But if it's just going to be in that one area back there, and we're just using it for a presentation wall, then we can plug into the TV through an HDMI port, or we can use the Crestron and use Air Media or Klitsche. So we'll have a couple of options.
Okay. No, that's good. I just wanted to make sure it had the ability at some point to be hardwired to a system if it had to be. But it being a TV itself, I guess it always has that ability.
There is a capability for, especially with the small computers on now, we could put a computer back there and mount it on the television that could have its own computer.
On the monitor itself, is it mounted on a swivel? In other words, can it be adjusted and moved out and turned toward the council, or is it just going to be?
It's so big, I don't know if it needs to be.
It's static. It's static. It will be in one place, not be able to turn.
In full turn, okay, because I've got a big TV.
Yeah,
It's on a, you can turn it anywhere you want to.
The general going theory here is that the 2 screens facing the audience will allow the audience to see the presentations and guests who are presenting remotely, that sort of thing. The screen in front of y'all needs to be able to be controlled in a way so that you have the right presentation in front of you. And so right now, we've got this awkward thing going where a lot of you guys are using your screen as an independently controlled computer. So you're using that to look at your file, look at your item that you wanted to bring up on a PDF of the agenda. Maybe you're looking at a contract, that sort of thing. Well, your screen will go back to the old theory, which was the city secretaries controlling it during the meeting to display for you, and then you're using your iPads. If you want to go check the contract in the packet, you would use your tablet to go check that. So a little bit of a change about functionality there.
Okay, and last in the weeds question is, hey, are we upgrading our platform? Are we still GoToMeeting? Are we Zoom? What are we doing to make sure that we're, now we have the hardware, what's our software?
So we're going to stick with GoToMeeting right now. Once the system is installed and everything is up and running, Dawn and I talked about I was kind of trying out a couple of different systems and see which one really works best for us, which one gives us the best customer facing, because if this COVID is going to go on for a while, then and we're going to have to continue to socially distance and present from a distance, then we need what the citizen sees to work for that. So Don and I talked about using Zoom, GoToMeeting, look at WebEx, we'll look at all the platforms and see what's going to work best and what looks the best. But I think the biggest issues that we've had as far as GoToMeeting goes isn't really an issue with GoToMeeting as much as it is with the technology that's being plugged into GoToMeeting. Because as technology has advanced, or as we've wanted to make changes in council chambers, we didn't really make an upgrade. We just added what we wanted and then figured out how to tie it.
Right. Okay.
Anyone else?
No, this is something that we may be able to work on now versus holding off. What I'd really like to see is having more accessibility to all our board meetings, and like hey, here's a phone number that you dial in if you're a community member, to call in to use those. I think the gold star would be, hey, let's have video for those as well, and that they can be stored just like our city council meetings and access just like our council meetings. That's where I'd like us to go eventually, but in the meantime, I'd really like us to have the opportunity to have individuals, teleconference in and make sure that we have those accessible for every board meeting. Is that something, a capability that we have now? Is it a staffing? Is it teaching other staff members how to do that?
So let me do step one on that answer, because there's a lot packed into there. So think about the fact that our historic thing has been to distribute our board meetings to different of our buildings and let the staff who work on that topic meet there. So I'll use Glenn, since he's sitting here in the audience with us. Glenn would have his airport board meeting at the airport terminal, his park board meeting at the service center, and so I'm not carrying the same level of technology in each room that we're in. And so that creates a conflict to that vision, right? We'd have to move some of the meetings back over here to really be on parity with that. I think it's a good goal. I think that we should be trying to figure out for airport board meetings, park board meetings, some of the ways that we can do that, and we can certainly endeavor to work on that. I'd rather kind of bring you back a longer report on that for the meetings that are specifically in this room. So now I'm on Civil Service Commission, Planning and Zoning, Building Standards Commission. For some of those meetings, they're really going to benefit from being able to be on exactly the same platform that we're on. And so for those, it's a little bit easier to make that exact transition and have that available. In terms of citizen call-in, I know that some other cities have worked on that, and you probably have talked to some other city secretaries on that. Do you want to address that real quick, Dawn?
That is something that we can definitely look at. One of the platforms that you can do that through is WebEx, because you need to have the capability to mute those callers so that they can't just talk whenever they want to talk. So you have to be able to mute them and then just permit people to talk when you want them to talk.
Sure.
So I know that WebEx is one of those. I don't know if Zoom can do that or not, but that's definitely something that we can research and look into.
I was thinking, because we're, certainly I think those are all options that different cities and organizations are using. In the live virtual platforms, and then also thinking about, how those could be stored to view later, what platform we're allowed to use that. Is it our same platform? Is it, seeing if we can have some of the CARES funding also reimburse some of those, the type of equipment that we have here, maybe not exactly the same thing, but something similar, to where if we're at the service center or if we're at the airport, we could have that type of equipment there that would allow for the recording of those board meetings to occur as well.
Yes, and we do on our platform now have the ability to, people can go onto our website and view the council meetings later, the ones that are live streamed. Whenever we have them off, at another location, I always record those, but we don't put those on the website because those files are really, really big. But if anybody ever asked, I can always, give them access to those. But they can go in and listen and view the meeting anytime that they want to.
I guess I'm thinking like, I think Dallas and Mesquite, because it makes me think about Carrollton Farmers Branch, a couple of different cities that are near, have the capability where they, although they're maybe 10 hours long if we're thinking about Dallas, and they're able to have those go live and saved online, and then they're even broken down kind of like a Councilman Royce was saying, where you could click on each item and be able to do that section as well.
Yes.
I think that would be something that I'd like us to strive for, to have, the accessibility to our community members to be able to use it and for reference as well.
So, and just to talk to the councilwoman's point, so I would say, hey, this is a good conversation for your summer budget retreat. That says, hey, if you're really serious about getting some additional equipment, this room will of course be outfitted and be the master, if you will. But they do have portable units that are substantially less money that we could talk about purchasing for, whether it be the police headquarters or the service center. Those units would be on a cart, if you will, maybe with one TV and one video recording unit. So I would say, hey, it's always a possibility. It's just money, and we just need to talk about it over the summertime as a budget item.
I think that's a point well taken. I just will remind everybody, and also for the folks watching, if you go to our website right now and you want to go watch the video for an individual agenda item from 4, 5, 6 months ago, then you can do that now. That's an upgrade that Dawn's done for us, so you can go back in and you can say, okay, I want to watch the video of the EDC agreement that we have related to American Way and the Sage Hill Parkway connector, and we had it on this October 6th meeting, and I can click on that and I can see, okay, boom, there's the discussion that happened with council, and everything that was on video at that time is provided there. To me, that indexing and that video ability to go by index is the gold standard of where we want to go, right? I want to be able to let my citizens 5, 6, 20 years from now click on that button and get to that memory of, okay, what did they really talk about? What was really presented? That would be invaluable to city staff to go back and have that memory of looking at that from 10 years later. So I'm completely with the goal, and this gives us a step in that direction.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we've got some time issues, so we're going to move on. And I would suggest, if you have any comments or questions, and it was a good presentation, Connor, but if staff has, or council has any more questions or concerns, please reach out to Dustin and Mike and see what we can come up with. Item number 6.2 is discuss interlocal agreement with Garland Mesquite Radio Systems. That again is going to be our emergency management coordinator, Dustin Connor. Dustin, if you'll go on.
Good evening. This is a much shorter presentation. I really just wanted to talk to you about GMRS and who they are. So Garland, Mesquite, Rowlett, Saxe, the regional communications network that is owned by Garland and Mesquite. They're growing and they provide a lot of things to us. So I just kind of wanted to talk to you about GMRS and the reasons why we should be looking at joining GMRS. So before we do that, the first thing is let's look at how to share. Sorry.
Sharon.
Okay, there we go. So the first thing we'll do is talk about our system. So the Terrell Public Radio System, we are coming up on 7 years old. We're an Astro Express K-Core site, so a single site repeater system in the 700 megahertz range with single key ADP encryption, which is the first step in encryption for public safety radios, and we have entry-level P25 public safety radios. There's no redundancy, so if we have a system failure, a tower gets hit, or whatever, an actual computer failure, then our radio system is down. No advanced features. We've got the basic entry public safety radio system, which was great for us at the time, but as Terrell continues to grow, it's going to cause us some problems later on. There's a high cost to expand, so if we wanted to add a second site on our own, it would be about a $2.5 million purchase. So it's a massive purchase to give us redundancy and give us more coverage as the city grows. And right now, the contract pricing that we have access to is HGAC. So GMRS was a joint effort between Garland and Mesquite to take care of communications issues that were failing. We had the same issues at the end of the system that we have. Garland and Mesquite obviously were much bigger, so they needed a bigger project. $30 million investment with 6 repeater sites, so 6 towers to serve the 2 cities. It's owned by Garland and Mesquite, where to enhance firefighter and officer safety, and it allowed them to be able to communicate more freely since they did so much stuff together. GMRS now has 13 sites, so they've more than doubled in size. They have interlocal agreements with Cedarville, the Park Cities, which is University Park and Highland Park, Saxe, Sunnyvale, Garland, Fort Worth, and they're working on an interlocal agreement with the city of Dallas right now. They're bringing the new system online. Advanced system features which are going to increase our officer and firefighter safety, and also going to allow multi-key encryption. So what that does for us is it allows us to be able to have tactical conversations over the radios for police, or transmit patient information and not have to worry about whether or not that information has gone out to the general public. The other thing that has a fully stacked radio shop that's completely certified by Motorola, which will take care of any maintenance needs. So here's the kind of why we should join GMRS and why we want to look at them. The big thing is redundant communications. So if you go back to the previous slide, you can see that Terrell, which is right here, is actually covered by the GMRS system. So if our site goes down, if we have a catastrophic failure at our repeater site, we can easily switch over to a GMRS talk path or channel and have no interruption in communication. It'll be a channel that's pre-designated for us and already on the system. The next thing is scalability. So when it comes time for us to talk about adding an additional site because of expansion of the city, or because we want to build our own redundancy locally, we have to be able to either purchase a core that will support it, or we have to join a core. Joining a core is going to save us about $1 million. So the big reason for GMRS is the $1 million savings just in the purchase of a core if we ever get to that point. The next thing is advanced encryption. It's not something we have now. It's not something that we will ever have unless we purchase our own core or join a core. Upgraded subscriber units. So one thing that we're going to be able to do by joining GMRS is we're going to be able to step up in a subscriber unit because their system will support something that ours won't. It increases communication power also, so the public safety radios that the police officers are carrying now, they are a smaller wattage that will reach out to the tower, where moving to the GMRS system and getting a subscriber refresh allows us to purchase the next step up in radios at actually a less cost. Regional interoperability, where this is important, is in the instance of like police chases. If the police end up involved in a chase and it goes west, because of the interoperability between GMRS and the others that were listed on the previous slide, we can go from here to Fort Worth, to the other side of Fort Worth, and never lose radio coverage. Probably the biggest reason we should join GMRS is cost savings. So GMRS has some negotiated contract pricing. One of the things that's in the council packet is the cost for us to join GMRS and upgrade our radio system subscriber units, so the end user radios. And it's about a 28% savings. So what should be right at $900,000 upgrade, we're gonna end up being able to save almost $290,000. So it's 28% in pricing that GMRS gets us that we don't get on HGAC. So their negotiated rate is actually negotiated off of HGAC. So it's an additional 28% savings off of MSRP using the GMRS. The other thing it gives us is allows us to have access to the GMRS technicians, which is huge, because right now we use Motorola or Crosspoint, who we have a good relationship with, but they're spread across the region, across the northern part of the state. And so this allows us to have someone that's right up the street who can help us troubleshoot, or can come out and tell us whether or not we need to contact Motorola to come out and fix an issue.
So, Mayor and Council, I'm going to pick up there and say that, again, this is a discussion item for tonight. What you'll see on your December the 8th agenda is a request to join GMRS, which is the contract that's embedded in your packet. That won't quite get us to the point of actually making this purchase, but it'll get us a lot closer. We had thought that we would be in the $1 million range for all of the radio equipment that we need that will serve the police chief. It'll serve the fire chief. It'll get us all the stuff that we need that we talked about at our budget retreat. And as Dustin said, after we join GMRS, which is the step for December 8th, we'll save about 28% on those costs. Happy to take any questions on this topic.
That's pretty good. If you would, please reach out to Mike or Dustin if you have any questions on this agenda. Again, just for the savings, the 28% savings in cost of purchasing equipment is a good reason to look at it. If you have any questions, please get with him. Let's move on to item number 6.3 is discuss entering into a lease agreement with DMM Leasing. This is Public Works, Glenn Caldwell.
Mr. Mayor, Council, it's always an honor to be here. One of the items we're presenting here is a lease agreement with DMM Leasing. Obviously, this is a discuss item. We are currently working with our legal team to make sure that the lease is vetted. One of the most important things in entering a lease with DMM Leasing is that they are going to give us an opportunity to save money. The goal is to save money here. We're currently with Enterprise, but at this particular time, we lease vehicles at cost. With DMM Leasing, we have the opportunity to lease the vehicle for the volume of time that we use the vehicle. So that's the most critical component related to DMM Leasing. And also, they are the forefront of leasing. They're the founders of it, they're the experts, and we learn that through processing and meeting with their team. And I'll open up for questions.
So again, let me just make sure we're clear. On December the 8th, we'll be back with two different leases, two different agreements. One is the master lease, and then the other one will be a lease for the very first thing we'd like to do to them, which is a rubber tire loader. which is a fairly expensive piece of equipment that we had break recently. And so 2 items for December 8th. One's the master agreement with D&M, and the other is the equipment lease that is going to fit in our budget for this year for our rubber tire loader.
What is a rubber tire?
A rubber tire loader is the most critical piece of equipment that we need to operate the zipper. It has a big front end loader, about a 5-ton bucket on the front, and it has rubber tires and not tracks. That's the rubber tire loader.
How is it, do we use the, so I believe I've seen it in the warehouse there, but how often do we use the zipper?
The zipper, right now, we cannot use the zipper at the current state because we have no tracked rubber tire loader. The rubber tire loader is what carries the zipper. So that rubber tire loader is used every day, every single day. We're in operation. Because that's how we load our material on that truck.
Don't tie this to the zipper. This is.
That's correct.
It is used with the zipper, but it is also used for many other operations. If I need to pick something up and move it, we're using this piece of equipment.
That's correct. And we'll bring you pictures at the next meeting so that you can see what they look like.
Is that a piece of equipment that we own right now, and now we're just looking to lease it?
That is correct. We currently own a piece of equipment that's not operational because it's completely down. We'll spend anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 repairing it, and it does not make sense.
So what are we going to
It's
do,
not
sell that
business.
equipment or what?
Exactly, Mr. Mayor. We'll sell that piece of equipment, and all the revenue that we capture will go back into the general fund, or actually the equipment replacement fund, so that we can reinvest those dollars for additional equipment later.
Okay.
Okay, and then master lease, so right now, are we looking at returning our fleet of current vehicles, or were those vehicles moved to a D&M lease?
We're not changing anything right now. We're just setting ourselves up for future decision-making with that master lease. And we do think that as we add new lease vehicles, that it will be advantageous for us to use a D&M strategy. But each of those are individual decisions that need to compete, right?
Okay.
So this gets me another competitor.
Sure.
Hey, so Glenn, you'd mentioned that there's probably some cost savings to us. What the council needs to see is the current contracts and what we're paying versus what a new D&M leasing looks like. And then we can move forward with it, okay?
And that's fair enough. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to be clear in sharing with you. If you're leasing equipment, if you lease for the time that you use the vehicle only, you're going to have a cost savings versus paying for a lease for the duration of a vehicle. So we could turn the vehicle in and only pay for 3 years versus paying for 5 years. We don't have that long-standing
Yeah, if we
commitment.
can see that on paper, what you think the difference is, that'd be a good thing to have.
Sure thing.
All right.
I'd also like to see, let's say, so if we're adding them as a, potential competitor here, so how long after that would we look to doing vehicle leases with them, and how many would we look to do with them?
Well, it all depends. For an example, we're in the process of looking at purchasing 4 new vehicles now. And so those 4 vehicles that we're looking at purchasing, we'll probably consider going with D&M leasing because of the cost savings opportunity. If you buy a police car, we don't want to lease a police car for 5 years. We need to lease the police car for 3 years and only pay for 3 years. We don't want to pay for 5 years. It's just not reasonable. And that's our goal.
We'll ask Glenn to use that example in his PowerPoint form at the next meeting, so you can kind of see that analysis in a visual way.
And one last question, our current lease for our vehicles, how many years are left in that lease agreement for those vehicles?
Currently, we have several vehicles that have 2 years, and we have some vehicles that'll have 3 years remaining. None of our vehicles, all of our vehicles is not on a set, same date, period. It varies because we bought them at different times.
Between 2 to 3 years left.
That's correct.
We probably
That's
have
correct.
an inventory of that with the
We do.
years. That's what we need, that's what the council wants. The council
We can
wants
share
to
that
see.
with you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Glenn. We're going to wait until 7 o'clock to do our executive session, so we're adjourned. Well, yeah, is that right? We're adjourned. Yes.